Oh, well. GG's. It's it is hot in here. Okay. I did say it's my pull up. Hang on a second. You win my um I don't know. You can have Summit. I don't know. Hello. You can have the first vote in my poll when I get it set up. Yeah, 10 points to you.
Where are you groping?
We blurred. Mm. Keep moving. Hello, Daniel. Welcome in. Right, okay, I was gonna do a poll. We'll get a poll going. Um, mm, although you can vote extra. I'm just gonna stick a poll up. I'm pulling a Janini. Hello. No, I've gone stripy. Although there's grey brown to the left of me. Oh, baby. Um, so, um, yeah. So there's a poll that I've just put up. So yeah. So if you weren't with us on Wednesday night, on the Discord, we watched Experience Within and then Advent Children, just one after the other. And it was an experience, and I okay. Thank you for being first, Mixed Worlds. Um, Appreciate you stopping by. Mixed Worlds is going to get world record in Tetris with Card Captor Skier any day now. um, yeah, you can have it a bit. I mean, like, I don't necessarily expect everybody to have watched both of them, and if I'm honest, we all agreed that we haven't, as a collective, watched Advent Children like for more than a decade. I think was the general kind of like average. Um, we all leveled down. Yeah. Um. Oh yeah. These streams are normally on a Friday night. So I'm normally on night times, to be fair. Um. Yeah. No, so Janini, you're going to be here today to witness me have the extremely hot take that Spirits Within is better than Advent Children. But some people feel very strongly that Spirits Within was not a good movie. And then Advent Children, I think the vibe in the channel when we were talking was that it wasn't as good as everyone kind of remembered. Beach Mouse like both. I think people were a bit taken aback by what we watched. I think they were like, I think people were expecting more. I think Spirits Within, the expectations were very low, and I think Spirits Within could only kind of either stay low or kind of improve, whereas Advent Children, I think the expectations were a bit more generous, and I think more people seemed disappointed with Advent Children because they were like, well, I knew Spirits Within was going to be rubbish, but Advent Children I thought was going to be alright. So yeah. Yeah, Red did get one line of dialogue, and I think in the original, I don't think he actually had that line of dialogue. So yeah, we watched the complete version, because the complete version actually kind of like fills in a couple of things. I think if you watch the incomplete version, there is more questions than anything else, so we had to.
Advent Children, 5 stars. Everything happened within the first 40 minutes. All detractors are wrong. It's the greatest movie ever made. Better cinematography than The Godfather.
Yeah,
better storytelling than Shawshank Redemption.
Everything that comes out of Kate Sith's mouth is a Scottish idiom, something. My stream's okay today. I have 0 dropped frames, and my stream status is excellent, which is unlike me. I'm usually expecting it to be a bit worse. So the one time when my stream is actually alright. I can't say I've got my VPN on today. Okay, so this is gonna be my big hot take. I think I kind of like, okay, we'll just wait for Hunter to finish on ads. What's the poll looking like while we're waiting? Spirits Within was better. Oh, somebody's been voting. I can't imagine that's the general consensus. What? I like the neither. I did put neither in there just to see if I could bait anyone into saying it. But yeah, my hot take is Jace. Okay, so I'm gonna straight up defend Spirits Within. Because, and I've said this before, so one of the movies, I think I said this to my husband earlier today, one of the movies was written and directed by a man that totally changed the landscape of how video games stories are told, in my opinion. And the other one was co-directed by a dude who really likes and zippers and likes making cool things. So that's where I'm at. So one of them really tried to create something that fulfilled all of his ideologies, and he really put his heart and soul into it and thought he was making the best the best story that he could with the media that he'd chosen with the CGI movie, wherein we all kind of, we made a joke while we were watching it that all the characters have very limited facial expressions because facial expressions were harder to animate and would have cost them more money. And it was $135 million, I believe, is what they spent on the movie. So, and they spent a lot of that on Aki's hair. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm conflicted. Like, Nomura is not my favorite guy. Like, if it was a fist fight between Sakaguchi or Nomura, I'm a Sakaguchi girl. I'm sorry, I can't help it. He did co-direct it. I did say that he co-directed it because he needed somebody else there to actually direct the movie instead of making it look cool. He didn't direct it on his own. And that tells you something. It was released. Advent Children was released in 2005, and I think 10-2 came out 2 or 3 years after 10. So 10 came out 2001. 10-2 I think was 2003, 2004. Advent Children was 2005. Advent Children was an Enix production, which is the delineation that you can kind of take from it. Obviously, Sakaguchi created Square Pictures with the intention of making more movies, and created the whole studio with that in mind. Spent several years making the movie. I can't remember how long it took them to make it. Hang on, let me double check it. I think the development took 4 years. So, with 200 people working on it. It cost just shit tons of money to make it, and it bankrupted the studio that was set up. So there's that. So both of them, I think, purely out of monetary reasons, chose very muted color palettes. So in Spirits Within, it's browns, it's greys, but then to kind of punctuate that, the spirits within were like a vibrant sci-fi orange, and then there were blue, flashes of blue. I don't really want to go into it just yet, but they use like orange and blue to kind of punctuate the grey and the brown and the black and all of those kind of shades. And I think it's clever with what they were trying to do. I think that that's a clever way of kind of like conveying what they were going for. Anyway, Spirits Within was apparently the poll winner. So yeah. And then Advent Children, I think it's just purely aesthetic that they made it all grey and washed out. So yeah. It's because life is so grey, so brown. But yeah. Okay. So MT's an Advent Children fan. Mm-hmm. Nothing was stopping you from watching it on your own computer and then talking in Discord. You could have watched it. Okay, well, we just did a poll, and Spirits Within, I said, which one's better? Advent Children, Spirits Within, or neither? And Spirits Within won. So obviously MT wasn't here to vote in that poll. But yeah, yeah. You were not. So it kind of just, yeah, lurking and smirking. Okay, you reading. Okay. I need to sneeze. Hang on. I'm just gonna sneeze real loud, so I'm just gonna mute. The Kingsglaive actually did get a few votes, but yeah. Oh, okay. You can read. I mean, I'm not gonna be streaming for too long, but yeah. Yeah, it got 2 votes. I think it got 3, but then I think somebody went in and changed their vote. There was a point where all 3 had 3 votes. I love democracy. We had a vote in the Discord about which film to watch. Yeah, it was a joint effort between Spirits Within and Advent Children. So yeah, I think it boils down to, I think everybody's kind of basically said it in a roundabout way. The main issue with Spirits Within was it was created by the people that bought you Final Fantasy, but it was ashamed of being a Final Fantasy film. So it used the Gaia theory, it used certain names, Sid, and it kind of like balanced out the themes of Final Fantasy in a very general way. It did use Final Fantasy VII's basic plot, but the problem with Spirits Within was it alienated Final Fantasy fans by not being Final Fantasy enough, because it was trying to be a serious movie, and it alienated audiences at the time because it was a CGI movie and people weren't ready for that and associated it with video games and didn't understand, like, modern audiences, you have to drag them kicking and screaming to see an animated movie, and convincing them that a purely CGI movie was for grown-ups wasn't a good sell in the end. So yeah. Yeah, it really doesn't have, yeah, thank you, P-Dubs. It really, there was a guy named Sid, and it used Gaia theory, which is very similar to what they did in Final Fantasy VII with the life stream, which is that the spirit, the earth itself has its own spirit, and everybody kind of is born from the planet and returns to the planet, and there's a like soul within the planet, and that's the limited kind of connection that it has. I would argue that it does have a coherent plot. It's a very basic plot, is Spirits Within, but, and this is why I prefer it to Advent Children, Spirits Within has a plot that goes from point A to point B. It's very mechanical in its storytelling. It goes, you meet your characters, you establish the setting, you pick up the item, the MacGuffin from old New York, you find out that she's got it, they establish the stakes with the bad guy, they chug out plot points, and they're moving towards this momentum, and they move towards the end, and some of the characters have like their own arcs, some of there is actually themes, there's actually a story there's a structure. It's boring to apparently everyone but me, but it actually does follow a kind of classic plot structure. Advent Children does not do that. Advent Children doesn't do that. Advent Children is action sequence, Sephiroth references and action sequences and things that you remember, and talking about mobile phones a lot. So I'm just gonna shoot my shot now. I hate Advent Children because of the way it uses Sephiroth. It's the whole compilation of Final Fantasy VII. Everything that they made, apart from maybe Dirge of Cerberus, every property with Final Fantasy VII is obsessed with Sephiroth, and I genuinely think it's to everything's detriment that they just can't. The level of restraint in the original Final Fantasy VII of never showing you Sephiroth, just talking about him in flashbacks, seeing what he's left behind, and finding him in the Northern Crater at the end. That's good storytelling. He's a villain because of his legend. And then and that's what makes him an excellent villain. And then every time they made like a spin-off or they told another story, they're obsessed with Sephiroth. And that's the one issue that I have, like one of many issues that I have with the remake and rebirth. Sephiroth's just lost all. He's an icon, but he's lost all relevance to me. Like he's just, yeah. But he's that's it. It's the legend of Sephiroth. It's not, and I think 7, the original story, is really clever in how a lot of the story is based around all of the characters' different perceptions. So it's Cloud's perception of reality. It's how Tifa perceives him. It's Barrett's interpretation of the Shinra's killing the planet. Everybody's the main character in their own story, and they've all got their own perceptions. Sephiroth doesn't have that because you don't spend any time with Sephiroth. You only know about Sephiroth through the build-up of what you learn from other characters and events. And you build a picture in your mind from the environmental storytelling, the flashbacks, the stuff that you learn from everybody else. And he that's why he's iconic though, because he stays in your mind, because you're always asking questions. What's going on with this guy? Who is this guy? And you spend the whole game searching for him, and that emotional connection that you build with this villain throughout the game is why he's so iconic, because everybody wants to know what's the deal with Sephiroth. And the more they know everybody loves him, and everybody's built this emotional connection to this character because the original game did such a good job of building him up in your head. Yes, Dirge was mentioned. But now, because you can't do that party trick every single time, and they know that Sephiroth's so popular, and they know that everybody just wants, I don't know who really wants to see him all the time, but there's no other villain that has the same impact in the 7 universe. And there's no other, they're not, I'm gonna say, they're not smart enough to tell a different story in the Final Fantasy VII world. So they just keep recycling Sephiroth because, yeah. And his perception is that Jenova is his mother because he misinterpreted the Ghast's research. His interpretation is that Sephiroth's perception of the world is different to everybody else's. Cloud's perception. Every character in 7 is driven by their own perceptions. And they all have such strong personalities that it kind of makes the story so compelling, because they all feel like realized people, because they all have their own point of view. And that's why 7's a great story. And none of the stories that they've told since the original game has lived up to the genius of the storytelling in the original. For me. I don't care if anybody likes the rest of the compilation, but I think, especially with Remake and Rebirth, that they've missed what made the original game so good. And they don't seem to understand why it was a good story. But like, that's my opinion. And the more I play the game, what they're doing, like the remake, I was like, maybe I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. Rebirth, I'm kind of like, I don't think they get it. I don't think they actually get the original game. And I'm putting it all down on Nomura. And now I'm going to read back through chat because I've just spoken a whole lot. And I do want to engage with what you've all told me. So yeah. Yeah, every time I agree with MT, every time you see Sephiroth, every time Sephiroth is on screen, it ruins the mystique. It ruins what makes them interesting. So every time they pull out Sephiroth in Remake and Rebirth and the compilation and in Advent freaking Children, it just makes it's not good. It's not good. Not for me. But yeah. New York existing in a Final Fantasy movie doesn't jive with me. They were trying to make it realistic. And again, it just didn't really work, did it? But yeah. But yeah. I'm just kind of scrolling through. Yeah, so they have to just keep bringing Sephiroth. That's my issue. I don't like that. I think that's lame. But yeah, that's my opinion. AC is bad. Fan service. Sephiroth and Aiko. Yeah, so throughout the movie when we were watching Advent Children, I am a child. So in the Discord chat, I just kept going Sephi boners because the whole movie, if you just condense it down to its core elements, is that everyone's got a boner for Sephiroth. And that is the plot to Advent Children. Basically, there's a fight sequence, people talking about Sephiroth, or something kind of tangentially connected to Sephiroth. And then there's the three dudes who are just the Sephiroth fanboys. Cloud doesn't. I don't think Cloud has a boner for Sephiroth. I think Cloud. I would argue that Cloud only knows a really like Cloud's perception of Sephiroth is based on his proximity to Zack. I would argue. Cloud never met Sephiroth apart from at the reactor. Sephiroth didn't know Cloud. I'm not gonna go into Rebirth spoilers. I think my only review of Rebirth is I just don't think they get it. That's my only review of it. I just don't think they get the story. But yeah. So actually speaking about Cloud, I think the most frustrating thing about Cloud, let me get into that. So yeah, the Sephi boner thing, that like Sephiroth boners, and basically, and this is the thing, this is the most egregious thing for me, is that they just recycled the last half of the game, the 7 game with Cloud's emotional journey. They just reset Cloud to grieving. And he actually, by the end of 7, was accepting of Aerith's, she's dead. He accepted that. He was ready to move. He found himself. He realized what was important. He'd grown and he was connecting with Tifa. And now they're expecting me, for 2 years, to turn around and accept that Cloud's just not over it anymore. And then they just replay his arc through the last section of Final Fantasy VII. He did, but... And I mean, I said it when we were watching the movie on the Discord. I did put this directly into chat. I said, why is Cloud sleeping on the floor in Aerith's church when Tifa's at home? He's got Tifa just there, ready, and he's sleeping on the floor in the church. And I'm supposed to make that make sense. That doesn't make sense. Why is he... What? What? Oh, right, yeah, so they don't really establish it in the movie, but they're living in a city that's built outside of the ruins of Midgar. Oh yeah, the traveling, it's like Game of Thrones Series 8 with the traveling. So Edge is outside of the ruins of Midgar, and then they just kind of bounce between Midgar and Edge and the Forgotten Capital, which apparently everyone just knows what that is, and no one's taking a boat. Everyone's just teleporting there. I don't even know what they're doing. It's called Edge, yeah. Yeah. And they all live in slums. And they all wear grey and dark blue clothes. No one is wearing colours in this movie apart from Vincent. Everybody else is just wearing grey or blue. Because that's what happens when everybody lives in a slum. But yeah. And Marlene's in there as well. Oh god, Marlene. Marlene's just turning up at the Forgotten Capital. There's a point where you see them they're driving the kids on a truck, and I'm like, do they not know that they have to get a boat? And it's gonna take fucking months. It's fucking, like I say, it's Game of Thrones teleportation skills at this point. Yeah, the costume design. Oh my god, don't even... Don't even get me started on Barrett's net vest tank, whatever that a strong like they did my man so bad. What were they dressing Barrett in that movie? What the fuck is Barrett wearing in that movie? It's not good. It's actually bad. Ocean Flyscape. Yeah, they must have done that. Like, I mean, the leather. I mean, it's Nomura. Everyone's wearing leather, and they look damn good in it. And fucking Rufus. Not only is Rufus there for no. Why is Rufus there? His voice actor actually, like, we talked about it, like, when we watched Spirits Within. The voice actors in Spirits Within, I would argue that they don't emote very much because emotions cost money and they couldn't do the facial situation to so that the voice actor's direction was don't shout or yell even in the most perilous situation because we can't animate that. So in Spirits Within, they're all very like chilled out. But Rufus's voice in Advent Children actually outstripped any of the voice acting in Advent Children. In Spirits Within, Rufus's voice was the worst thing in Advent Children. It was so like I wouldn't care. Like I would have given him a pass if he just talked like a normal person. Oh my god. But yeah. But Rufus didn't. Did Rufus get a redemption arc? Rufus, let's be fucking real with Rufus. Rufus is a sassy little nepo baby. Rufus is like, my dad was rich and he ruled with money. I'm gonna rule with fear because I'm a bitch. And that's, yeah. He had a blanket over his body. He was under a blanket. And I was saying that when they were like doing the promotion for the movie, they're like, who's the man under the hood? Who could it be? What's all this about? And it was just fucking Rufus. It wasn't even the reveal itself was like, I watched the movie thinking, who could it be? And it was Rufus. And I remember even as a teenager thinking, well, that sucked. That was a terrible mystery. But he even says in the original 7 game, I don't make speeches. I'm not my dad. I'm just gonna murder you. And then all he does, I know he's in bandages, I know he's fucking in a wheelchair, oh my god, but still, he, like, oh, they really fucked him over. They made him really boring. So yeah, Reno and Rude are actually, even though, and again, we said this when we were watching it, we were like, didn't Reno want to quit the Turks at the end of 7? Reno and Rude were on their way out, but they're running around with the Shinra because they needed to be in the movie. And to be fair to Reno and Rude, Rude is the sexiest motherfucker in Final Fantasy VII, and I will die on that hill. Beautiful man. And he's got shades. He's really, I love Rude. What are you talking about? Yeah, they're the comic relief. They probably get the most lines of dialogue outside of like Tifa and Cloud. Although Tifa don't. We won't get started on Tifa. So Reno and Rude are there for comic relief, to move the plot along, to kind of, they kind of just act as the go-between between like Cloud and the Sephiroth boners, and they kind of just keep things moving along. And Rufus, yeah, you can have Reno with his hair. And actually, the one thing that I do like about Remake and Rebirth is Reno's redesign. I think he looks really good in those games. But yeah. I mean, to be fair, everybody said, I think it was Hobbit, like people were saying the best part of Advent Children was the remake, like the version that they played of a One Winged Angel. But yeah. Oh, Kingdom Hearts Axel. The Bold Crew were pretty good, but we were not doing spoilers for Rebirth, so I don't know. I haven't really checked, but just be careful with Rebirth spoilers, please. I think they're tattoos. I mean, Reno. Well, this is it. Reno in the original again. Reno in the original game is a villain, and he's kind of gross and he's kind of evil. And I think in remake they do try to like humanize him a bit, where he's kind of like, "Damn, I did push that button, didn't I?" But like he still did that. Um, so you know he's morally grey. He is totally responsible for the plate dropping on Seven. Um, yeah, him and you know him and Beatrix would get along, I think. Um, she's just been doodling on his face with a pen. I don't know, Reno. But again, this is a morally grey character. This is a really interesting character, and in Spirits Within, he's comic relief. He does the one-liners. He says the dumb shit, and he has a couple of fight. I think he fights for a bit, but then I do think by the end of like the original Seven, if you like do the Wutai side quest, if you do the submarine, Reno's pretty checked out by the end of Seven, the original game. He's kind of like he doesn't seem like if I again I've not played the original like in depth for a while, but I feel like with Reno, by the end of the original Seven game, he's done with Shinra. And obviously when Midgar is destroyed and Shinra is dismantled, I don't think Reno, in my opinion, would have any reason to go back to them. I think he would. I think he would have left. But again, that would be like from a human perspective, whereas Advent Children isn't working from a human perspective, it's working from a fan service perspective, so yeah. Oh, that's sad. He died. Reno VA died. Oh. Doesn't appear much in Rebirth. Hmm. I think they're good in the original Seven. Like, yeah. Yeah, I mean they're like the repeat bosses of the game, the Turks. But yeah, they are like Team Rocket. But I think, and I do think that remake especially tries to kind of reframe the Turks. They're not the cutesy, fun comic relief guys. They are actually genuinely dangerous. They are actually murderers. They are actually morally grey, like I've said. And in Advent Children, I think that kind of did them a disservice, and I do think that they tried to course correct as they went with it. Um, but yeah, that was okay. I just generally don't want to kind of go into spoilers, but like, you know, I wouldn't want to spoil anything for Janine. But anyway, so boiling it down to an essence with Advent Children, like again, it's coming back round to Spirits Within tried to tell a story. Was it a good, entertaining story? Maybe not. I don't know. I liked it. I think it swung for the fences. I think it tried to tell a full story. I think it had interest. Like, if any of the characters spoke with any level of emotion, I think it would have been improved massively. And I will say that I think it's General Hein. I looked it up. James Woods' character, don't get me wrong, James Woods is problematic at best, but he actually did the best voice acting performance in Spirits Within as the role of the villain. And and there was just a point we were all kind of like sat there and it was like, why does he really badly want to shoot this cannon? Like, what's going on? And then they just did a whole exposition dump within like 30 seconds. They were like, oh, his family died, they were killed by the phantoms on the beach, and that's just why he wants to kill all the phantoms. And then in the next scene, he's letting all the phantoms into the city, basically causing an absolute meltdown and massacre. And he he's just generic villain. His motivation is that his family died. What are you gonna do? It's not a complicated story, but yeah. What is this? Death Stranding? I don't know. Maybe Kojima watched Spirits Within and got a boner for it. I don't know. So yeah, his motivations make sense. He has an arc, and he is undone by his own hubris. He has a point A to B to end. What? He has an arc. Is it exciting? No, but it's an arc. He's a villain. He's got motivation. He's got sand on his boot. No, that is Kafka. But he's a villain, and then the spirits. Well, there's the mission for the spirits, which is kind of like a MacGuffin, but it's linked to Aki and it's linked to Grey and Aki and Grey. So if you're not aware, and if you weren't paying attention to the movie of The Spirits Within, the world is plagued with ghost-like alien entities that rip your soul from your body. And that's the kind of core conflict in this situation. The world is all grey and miserable. They've been there for 30 years, I think, since a meteor struck. And Dr. Aki is working for an organization who believes, with Dr. Sid, who believes that if they collect 8 spirits that emit a certain wavelength, they can help kind of either cure people of dying from being touched by the phantoms, or they can combat them in some kind of way. And the Aki spends the first like 20 minutes of the movie, and she gets a plant, which is very Wall-E coded, and everyone goes because that's funny. And then she's looking for the spirits, and she's picked up the spirits from various animals and other living people, and they are just MacGuffins. And and then turns out that her and Grey, who's part of an army unit, combat unit, I don't know what you call it. And then it's her ex-boyfriend is Grey. He leads the unit that comes and extracts her from Earth, from old New York, which has a big Sony advert in the background. They actually did product placement in the Final Fantasy Spirits Within movie, which I thought, yes, the signs of times to come. So yeah, there was a product placement in old New York, and they're looking for the 8 spirits, and Grey comes and picks up Aki, and they're looking for the 8 spirits, and the big general Nazi guy. There was Pepsi. Yeah, there was a Pepsi ad too. No, wait, Pepsi was in. No, it was McDonald's in Fifth Element. We love product placement in our movies. They're collecting up the spirits. The big bad guy, the Nazi guy, wants to just shoot a giant cannon at the meteor landing point where the aliens arrived, and thinks that if he shoots a big laser cannon, that'll get rid of the phantoms. And Aki thinks by finding these spirits that she can combat the phantoms, and that's the core conflict between the two people. And he's like, that's all stupid and silly, and James Woods giving it like really fun. And then how is it? A cool, refreshing kind of nobody has a pot noodle in the movie either. And then the end of the movie is that the general Nazi guy, to try and plead his case to the council of nerds that run the city or world or whatever that's left of it, he decides to let the spirits into the protected dome of the city. He lets the phantoms into the city. They kill everyone. Your ragtag team, including Steve Buscemi, inevitably faces their doom. And then we find the eighth spirit. We go to the place with the eighth spirit, which is at the crater with the meteor in it. And we find the eighth spirit and the main dude. And when we get there, Aki and Gray reconnect because they split up because she has the spirits. She has some phantom trapped inside of her, and they're using the spirits to contain them. So she didn't want him to be around her when she could potentially die. So she broke up with him, and she was focused on her quest to find the MacGuffins. And they reconnect, and then the end of the movie is that they find the final spirit, and the guy shoots the cannon, and that just causes a load of shit and blows him up because you shouldn't be shooting cannons at things. And the end of the movie, spoilers, is that Gray sacrifices himself to spread the spirit to the rest of the phantoms, and it cures everybody because they're ghosts from a previous planet. I think it's a good story. The fact that I can't just describe it in like 5 words is, I think it's good. I think it's got, there's arcs, there's character development, you have established stakes, the phantom design is really cool. Apart from the voice acting, which is so stupid, is bad. But like, I liked it because I like what they were trying to achieve, and I would rather that they swung for the fences with a story that tried to say something and actually tried to tell a story, rather than Advent Children, which was fan service, which shat on the original game, which actually did the original game a disservice. It makes the end of Final Fantasy VII worse, watching Advent Children, knowing that 2 years later, Cloud's still not over it. Reno and Rude are still working for Shinra. Rufus is still alive. No one's talking to each other. Barrett's left Marlene again to go look for oil fields, which is all great and good, but like, she's your daughter, man. Fuck. So yeah. I think Advent Children pisses me off. Spirits Within, I appreciate what they were trying to do. And that's where I'm at. Please feel free to tell me what your thoughts are. Ha. Difficult to tell he died because he was voiced by Alec Baldwin and did not emote. Hi, Pampa! Pepe D! How's it going? We're talking Final Fantasy movies. I liked it. And I think, I guess with Spirits Within, I think the issue with Spirits Within is that they swung for the fences and they failed miserably. Oh, nice. If you're not following Pampa, he does some streams. I'm gonna do your the amount of 9s right today. 5. No, see, I need to actually do shout out command. It's hot in here. There you go. It said you were playing Rebirth. Nice. We're talking Final Fantasy now. But yeah, apparently at the time it was the most expensive. Spirits Within was the most expensive movie ever made, I think, at the time. You changed the title, that's fair. And yeah, it's the fact, so again, and it just boils down to the fact that people, I think Sakaguchi, I remember there was an interview where he was like, people thought Snow White was a dumb idea and like making a whole animated movie. That's just crazy. And Walt Disney did it anyway, and it's a classic. And I think he genuinely thought making a full CGI movie was enough to kind of get that buzz, get that attention. Oh my god, no. Sorry, my phone just buzzed. I think Sakaguchi thought that making a CGI movie was enough to get him all the street cred, and he was like, everyone thought that was crazy. And I think, I don't know if it was hubris or if it was just a miscalculation, but it was like, Square wanted to be them, because Square, like, if you watch the FMVs, like, from Final Fantasy 7, 8, and 9, they obviously, they began to kind of market themselves as the FMV, like, game designer. Like, their games were so pretty, and they really, like, CGI and the imagery and everything, that is something that Square has for many years now kind of prided itself on, making beautiful video game graphics, and maybe to the detriment of other things, but it kind of like it just didn't translate into the movie because it wasn't Final Fantasy. It's all, yeah, but when it's very pretty and it bores people to tears, apparently, like, the general feedback that I always get for Spirits Within is, man, it's boring. And it's like, people watched it wanting to see a Final Fantasy movie because they're Final Fantasy fans, and apart from, again, those themes that Sakaguchi loves, which is the Gaia Theory and the guy called Sid, it didn't have anything really Final Fantasy. It looked more like a Halo thing. And then, so it alienated Final Fantasy fans, and then general cinema goers just didn't want to see a movie that was associated with video games and was in CGI, because it's that uncanny valley of, they just weren't ready for it. And, you know, like 10 years later, they were, because we were getting Pixar and everything, but Pixar had made, I think, so Toy Story came out in 98, but Toy Story was a kid's film, and this is a grown-up film, and obviously video game, CGI movie, Toy Story, that's associated with kids, so it kind of like, don't, because if we start on Dr. Aki, we could be here a while. So Dr. Aki was, she was supposed to be the first CGI actress. So she was like, yeah, it was supposed to be an action film. The action, I guess, wasn't very good. But she was supposed to be the first CGI actress, and the idea was that she was going to feature in other Square movies, but unfortunately, Spirits Within bankrupted the Square Pictures as we know it. So, and obviously Sakaguchi got facts. So it didn't work out the way he wanted it to. But Aki appeared, I think it was like an FHM spread. Maxim. It was Maxim. She was featured in the Hot Ladies Top 100 because they figured that they could use, she's a sexy lady made of CGI biddies, and they kind of wanted her to be an actress that featured in other films. Y'all remember how Lightning was a model for Louis Vuitton, and they thought that they could, CGI models to, yeah, she was in a lads mag. But again, it kind of just, it was a situation wherein I don't know if it was just that people weren't ready for it or people just weren't. It didn't take. It was like it was a big idea, but it kind of just didn't. Everybody like kind of, yeah, it's not familiar territory. It's not. I don't think people were ready. And I do think that, to be fair to Aki, she wasn't a very good actress. Come on, she was probably like, her line readings were probably like joint worst in that movie. Like, again, James Woods is the best voice actor in Spirits Within by like a country mile. Um, Donald Sutherland didn't have to do much; he just had to be Donald Sutherland. Um, but yeah, it was the fact. I think it was kind of like the uncanny valley situation where the characters look like video game characters, and that's okay. But it wasn't like people just couldn't quite reconcile it with watching a full movie. There's a full FMV, and you could kind of like you could kind of see it like being a game. Like the first level is Aki going to old New York to find the MacGuffin, and then the next level is I don't know, extracting whatever Gray's got stuck inside of him, and then the next level is, and then obviously the massacre and everything, and then the final level is at the meteor crater and stuff. But yeah, like escaping the city, the siege, everything. I think that's the thing with voice acting. I think unless it's like, I think it's a combination of factors. I think you've got to have dialogue, you've got to have decent animation to kind of match up with what's being said, and you've got to have a voice actor that actually is good at what they're doing. But I do think I get the impression from just the caliber of actor that they had that it was difficult for them to know. I don't think they got much direction. And I think that they were told to keep their emotions tamped down because they couldn't animate the emotions on the faces. So it just kind of, yeah, it went horribly wrong. I think I was watching, if you've, obviously Claire Obscura is a good one, where Andy Serkis is like talking about how he had to do the VA for his character Renoir, and he sometimes he sounds really frustrated with it because he didn't do the movement. The French guy did all of like the mocap. So Andy Serkis is just working from somebody else's performance, and the animations are already there, and he has no kind of creative impact on it. So he's just got to work with his skills, and he had to like give a performance that was already so tightly crafted. But yeah. Well, this is it, and I don't think that they had the tools to give them good direction because, like, I don't think 2001 was like a pretty much very prime time for voice acting because, let's be real, 2001 was Final Fantasy X voice acting, which we all know is quite hit and miss. And that was the first time that Square had even done voice acting. So if you kind of like put it in that perspective, I don't think the actors got very good direction. And I think that's part of the problem. I just don't think that they were. I think I'm gonna give them some like, yeah, that's it. I I think that's the problem, and it is like a different skill set, and I think it is a different situation, and I kind of like, I think James Woodard was Hades and Hercules, and I think he just transferred that skill set and was just like, I'm just gonna go for it, and he did really go for it. But the other guys, I get the impression they were probably in those booths going, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, and it kind of comes across, especially Ming Na Wen. I just get that impression. I mean, I could probably say this like it's only Advent Children came out in 2005. And I do think that Um, I don't think the voice acting is very good in that either. I think it's better, tiny bit better. I just don't think it's. I still don't. I don't think if we're talking about voice acting, I don't think it's very good. I could tell you who like the voice actors are. I know that I made a joke about it in the chat. I pointed out that Aerith is voiced by Mina Suvari. Suvari. Don't get me started. I don't fucking hate it. Yeah. Dilly dally, shelly shally. That is just terrible translation. Whoever said that she should say that with a straight face is it's just bad. That's like they could have translated that to anything. They could have just got somebody in and said, "What's an idiom for you're just dicking about, mate?" I know when I was a kid, I remember watching it thinking I was a teenager and I wasn't enjoying the movie at that point anyway, and I remember watching it going, "Excuse me." It really takes you out of it because they're having a serious conversation, and she just comes out with that, and you're just like, "Say that again," and then she does, which is even more embarrassing. Um, but yeah, translation was bad. Those will be my last words. Put them on my gravestone. So yeah, the thing with Advent Children is that not only like I feel like in Spirits Within the dialogue it's wholly exposition Batman. Like both movies are terrible at exposition, but I think that the dialogue's slightly more natural in Spirits Within, but I might be having rose tinted glasses. But like in Advent Children, the conversations are just terrible. I don't think anybody actually like some of the conversations in Advent Children are exposition dump. Some kind of weird exchange where it seems like it got translated wrong, and then there's Marlene going on about mobile phones. All of Yuffie's lines annoy the shit out of me. My sister is not here, so I can say that out loud. Yeah, it's just everything that the trio says is stupid. There's the guy like the one with the short hair who's like, and they just keep going to him, "Don't cry, Lars," and he's like, "I'm not crying," and it's like, it's not a natural conversation. Please stop it. She got a concussion. Yeah, I just remember you going, "You weren't there, Finny. How do you know any of this stuff? Finny, you're asleep. And I didn't get you in my playthrough." I don't know. Vincent is. He's there to look cool, right? Advent Children, again, it comes back down to with Spirits Within, I think it was very focused on trying to tell a story, and I don't think there was any bells and whistles, and to an extent, I don't think they were trying to appeal to anyone, because they obviously didn't want to appeal to Final Fantasy fans, they didn't want to appeal to normal cinema goers, they just wanted to make a really good movie from their perspective, and as we know, perspectives are very difficult things. But I do think that Sakaguchi was trying to make the best movie that he could make with the technology that he had. And I know everybody finds that super boring, but I loved it. And I would prefer somebody to swing for the fences and make a terrible mess and fail rather than whatever Advent Children was. And again, it's down to personal preference, but that is my opinion. Because Advent Children it just doesn't. It's just fan service. I would like it's not a perfect movie, but I have a lot of affection for it. I feel like I just put myself into a weird position. I love it when I love it. I love a disaster. I love a crime of passion. I'd prefer watching something where somebody put their heart and soul into it and failed, rather than some, like, whatever Advent Children was. I don't think I would say that Spirits Within, in my opinion, could be considered art, because somebody quite like 200 animators and Sakaguchi tried to make something with some kind of goal. They really were trying. So yeah, I gave it 4 shovels. Yeah. I give it 4 shovels. I can't give it 5. I don't do half measures. I gave it 4 stars. So I think I would consider Spirits Within art, because someone with passion tried to create something and failed in a way. But I liked it. And so did the girl from what's her name? The girl from Life is Strange. It's gonna bug me. The girl from Life is Strange says it's great. He just wanted a shovel. I did give it 4 shovels. That's out of 5. My ratings were 4 out of 5 for Spirits Within and 2 out of 5 for Advent Children. Neither are mid. I'll give them that. Because I think that Spirits Within is a swing and a miss, but I appreciate the passion. And Advent Children is fan service with no coherent, no respect for the story that came before, no comprehension of the characters. Look, man, I like Tifa. Got 2 stars because one of the stars, 2 stars are for Tifa. 2 stars are for Tifa. These 2. I'll never hate Tifa. I'm that obvious, yeah. Everybody loves Tifa apart from Cloud. She's there, waiting for him every night. And he's going and sleeping in the church on the floor and ignoring my girl, Tifa. 2 years later, and he's not over the dead girl. And he's ignoring Tifa. Tifa's at home. And at the dilly-dally shilly-shally moment is her saying to him, right, you need to buck up now. It's either me or the dead girl. And he's like, let me just go get some milk. And then he goes out and saves the children. Whoa. What do you mean you don't like Tifa? Janini's coming in hot. Tifa in a mono green landfill deck. Landfall deck is obscene. That's trading card game nonsense, and I do not understand it. Or meeting magic. Gaming that I haven't played. So she's powerful, is what you're telling me. I don't understand how you couldn't love her. You've been teaching Luffy. That's cool. I feel like I haven't seen you and Loopy around for a while. So you've been playing Magic the Gathering with the Final Fantasy cards. I think. I don't really know. Anyway, I'm trying to think. Trying to think of something else to say. I feel like I've laid my cards on. Speaking of cards, I think I've put my cards on the table with regards to how I feel about the movies. I definitely know like that people argue with me and people don't agree with me on that, and I'm like totally fine with it because I appreciate that Spirits Within is pretty boring, but like, yeah, it's it's my boring, it's mine. Advent Children can suck it because it just doesn't tickle my fancy because it takes what's good about Final Fantasy VII and shits on it, and I don't like it. And I feel like that's the problem. I think people said that Spirits Within wasn't Final Fantasy enough, and I think they were like, shit, we have to do something Final Fantasy then. And then they did Final Fantasy Spirits Within, and by doing something with Final Fantasy VII, which was the most popular, recognizable game of the series, they made something that was for the fans, because they say at the beginning, there's like a little title card at the beginning saying this is for the fans. But because they just didn't have a genuinely good story to tell, what they told instead was a bad story. And again, it comes back down to my personal preference as to whether or not you like Nomura and his bullshit, and I don't. So I don't, like, for me, it was a failure because if Final Fantasy for me has always been about telling telling a story, I think Spirits Within told a story that made sense and was coherent. Advent Children didn't tell a story that was coherent, and because it was reflective of Seven, the greatest game ever, whatever you want to say about it, because it's piggybacking off your affection for Seven, doesn't tell its own story. Yeah, I think Spirits Within, I think that's a nice way of putting it. It does have more dignity. It tried to do its own thing, and it failed miserably because nobody wanted to know, and it alienated everyone. But at least it was trying to do its own thing. And then Advent Children just kind of they did fan service. It was just fan service. And yeah, it was that. And by doing fan service and not focusing on telling a story that was just telling a good story, that's all that I think, and that's my thing with Sakaguchi. I've always respected the man for wanting to tell a story, and that's what drew me to Final Fantasy, the stories that they told with the medium that they had. And it just boils back down to Sakaguchi wanted to tell a really good story through the medium that he had to hand, and Tetsuya Nomura wants to show you something really fucking cool, which is people slaps on motorbikes and people with big swords and just fan service. And it just, yeah, it's like, hey, yeah, we need somebody for Cloud to talk to in this scene. Why were they flying there? Why did Sephiroth have to come back? Is just, it hurts me, because like everything that I like about Sephiroth is the fact that you spend all of 7 just never seeing him. And you, again, it's that trick where they built up the emotional impact of Sephiroth by you never see him, you just hear other people's perceptions of him, you see flashbacks, you never see him until you're actually in the crater. You never actually have any interaction with him. everything about Sephiroth is legend and myth, and it builds an emotional connection that they just can't replicate it, and they can't let Sephiroth go because everybody loves him, because the legend that they made of him was so fucking cool. But then by constantly throwing Sephiroth into a story where he does not fit thematically or even at all, they just constantly undermine what made Sephiroth a great character, which is that everything that you learn about him is from other people. It's from other people talking. It's the legend. And then they just make him and Cloud, and they're like, you know what we need to do? We need Cloud and Sephiroth to have a fight because that flashback at the reactor in Nibelheim, that was the best part of Sephiroth. Like, that was a flashback. And the flashback in the reactor, everybody loves that fight because Cloud overcame Sephiroth when he shouldn't have done against all odds. But it wasn't this glorious moment in the story. It was like, it was actually, it's tragedy. That whole incident is a tragic story. Like, pretty much everybody gets injured or mauled or killed, and Cloud gets dragged away, and it's actually quite, it's not a victory. But they were like, yeah, that's the coolest bit, because they did it. I think there was a what was it? They did like a little movie based around, they did an anime. It was like 20 minutes long. I can't remember what it was, like Last Order or something. There's a really good anime that just does the whole story of the Nibelheim reactor. It's really fucking cool. But they're like, people love it when Cloud and Sephiroth fight. We gotta get them to fight again, because that's the best thing. That's all people want to see. Give the people what they want. And I'm gonna, as a fan, I'm gonna hold my hand up and say that's if that's not what I want to see from the 7 stories. I actually want to see them grow and develop. I want to see my characters actually experience something real. Because what happened in 7 was them all experiencing their own personal journeys and growing and learning and loving and self-actualizing. I don't give a shit. Whatever. 7's great for that. And then because they couldn't think of anything else to do with Advent Children, they just rewound the clock, made Cloud a sad bastard again. It's just it just shits on the story of 7. It just rewind. It makes the end of 7 worse. It's what they did with the 13 trilogy, if I'm completely honest, because we just played through that quite recently. When storytellers don't know how to move the story forward organically, they do it in TV shows, they do it in movie series. They just reset the character to a familiar state and then just send them on the same journey again. And that's like a really shit storytelling technique, but it's how storytellers will convince you that the character is going through development. So, you know what, he can be in Super Mario Bros. And honestly, I don't mind him being in Kingdom Hearts as like a secret boss. I don't give a shit. But if you're trying to tell me a story about Final Fantasy VII that's a sequel 2 years later, Sephiroth is the last thing that I want to know about. And if you can't tell a story without bringing Sephiroth back and shoehorning him in as a boss at the end of every single game in your trilogy that you're making, then you're doing it wrong. Maybe I am angry at Remake. Maybe I am angry at Rebirth. They've just killed Sephiroth in those games, man. They put her in a sports bra in the new game. It's for you. This is the thing. They keep bringing him back in the remake and the Rebirth, and he doesn't do anything. He just waffles. I'm gonna blame those Silverhead freaks for that, because they just talked absolute shit through the film. They just said a whole load of verbs and nouns and shit, and they just didn't talk like human beings. And now Sephiroth has inherited that character trait. You mean crybaby bitch boy? He's a crybaby bitch boy in every property that's not Final Fantasy OG 7, whatever you want to call it. But yeah. The one that made motorcycle noises. The one with the short hair. Loz. Hey, Kara Dizzle. Yeah. We were actually we did talk about voice acting in the games, in the movies, not the games. We did talk about it, and there was a point at the beginning, like early on in the movie, where Loz is like driving the motorcycle and he goes vroom vroom, and he does it like later on in the movie as well, and he just like just vroom, because he's supposed to be childish. I think that was his characteristic, because they keep mocking him and they say, "Don't cry, Loz," and he's like, "I'm not crying." So I think if we went into the lore of what the three Silverhaired Bros are about, they're supposed to be aspects of Sephiroth's persona. I'm still talking and you've been out for a run. Oh my god. Well done. GG's, Hunter. I've been talking about this for a while. You're cross-posting fashion. I'll have a look. I will check my fashion. I'm glad that I've got you passionate about fashion. Kara Dizzle's got a passion for fashion. Yeah, power, cunning, and I think one of them's childishness. Like his inner child. I think Loz is supposed to be the inner child character. Like the stupid one. And the other one's like his cunning, and the other one is like, I don't know. I can't tell. Well, I'm glad that you can. So we do. I don't know what the ant joke is. But yeah, they were made from Sephiroth existing in the live stream and randomly scattered Genova cells. You like Naked Gun? I like Naked Gun. It was a good movie. I've been saying, like, for a movie recommendation, if you want to go see a movie in the cinema, go see Naked Gun with Liam Neeson and Pamela Anderson. Because it's an 85-minute movie, which when I mentioned that, somebody was like, "Oh wow, that's a sell. That's a selling point. It's not a fucking long movie." And in 85 minutes, they managed to, if every second on the screen, if they're not making some kind of joke with their mouths, there's some kind of visual joke going on in the background or the foreground. Like, there were so many jokes packed into 80 minutes of that movie. It's incredible. I love it. They really did. Like, it's a bit short, but... And Pamela's selling pickles. You got pickles. Speaking of popcorn, I've got like a bowl of popcorn here, but I haven't eaten it because I've been talking too much. But if you're interested in my movie takes, and if you want to participate in movie night, because we'll have to put a vote up for next month's movie night, join the Discord, because the link's right there, so I'll shill it while I'm here. The Discord, we put votes up for what movie we're going to watch next movie night. There's a fashion page, which KOD likes. Now there are 10 ants. I just got the ant joke. That's very good. Well played. Well, I mean, I don't know. The chalet was incredible. The chalet holiday was incredible. But yeah, join the Discord if you're interested. We do our Wordles on my Discord. We do movie night. I'll put all my speedrun practice and Tetris runs on there, and yeah, it's a good time. I post pictures of Pedro Pascal if you're into that. And when we do fashion, me and KRD, we all have opinions on. I'll post some fashion, and we'll have a chat about it. So yeah, it's all about what we do on the Discord channel. And I also posted a thing about Pamela Anderson selling pickles. But yeah, I liked Spirits Within. I didn't like Advent Children. I've made my feelings quite clear, but again, for those who weren't here, Spirits Within was passionate and was a passion project by a man who had a lot of hubris, who wanted to tell a story with the medium that he had, and he tried and he failed and made some really shitty judgments. She's selling pickles for the wildfires. They're from her garden. They're pickles and flowers. I'm in the middle of it. I get distracted. Spirits Within is a passion project made by a creator who wanted to tell a story with the medium and failed miserably because of his hubris. He marketed it as a Final Fantasy film, and nobody wanted to see it because it didn't have anything to do with Final Fantasy, and modern cinema goers in 2001 didn't want to see a CGI movie associated with a video game that was for adults, which was a medium that was associated with children. It wasn't meant to be. Spirits Within was a swing and a miss. I appreciate the passion. I have a deep love for it. Advent Children is a fan service disaster. Its focus is looking cool and giving you what you think you want, but it's not telling a story of any substance, and it ultimately fails and undermines what was good about the original game, and it shits on the legacy of said story in said game. So I think that's how I feel about both movies. People can tell me as much as they want that Spirits Within is boring and weird and the faces don't move. I find that charming. And people can tell me that they like Advent Children, but I think the general consensus when we watched Advent Children and everybody was like, I haven't seen this since I was a teenager, and then we all sat and watched it and we all went, oh, that wasn't very good, was it? So Advent Children I don't think holds up, is my point. And yeah, there's product placement in the movies. Yeah, the faces thing, I like it. I've been over it, but yeah. Like, I think that's it. I think Advent Children, I guess it kind of goes into the whole compilation thing. I think 7 is so well loved, and it's such a cash cow for Square. So they made all the spin-offs. I don't like Crisis Core. Don't like Zack. Because the expansion of his character, again, undermines the story in the original game, and I don't think it benefits anything. And saying that Zack is a cool, nice guy who just wants to be cool and nice. He's working as a mercenary for the Shinra. He's not, like, that's morally ambiguous at best. And I'm supposed to be rooting for this cool guy who's just so nice. There's no conflict. Like, they don't even address the fact that, like, he's working for the bad guys. He never, like, really addresses it. He's so fucking boring. He's so annoying. I hate Zack. And then Dirge of Cerberus, which I also have issues with, because that then expands the storyline in a way that is stupid. And I feel like everything that they did with the compilation is almost to an extent like fan fiction of, like, they just go, what if this happened? And they just don't think it through. Every story that they've told with the compilation, from my perspective, is shit. Zack is shit. Every story that they've told with the compilation has been so ill-conceived, not thought through. There's no. They just feel like cash grabs to me. They just feel like they just haven't thought it through. They've not added anything that I find matches the level of the story that the original told. But again, played the original when I was a kid and it blew my mind grapes. So I'm gonna be willing to admit that if I'd never played Final Fantasy VII and picked up the PS1 version today, maybe I wouldn't have such a strong emotional connection to it. And I appreciate that people who've kind of known the media with the compilation existing in that space already, rather than seeing the compilation get added to it as it went at a later point, and not having that, like, emotional journey of seeing them constantly adding things and just making it not really matching what I felt about the original. It's an emotional thing, but yeah. And it's my opinion. And I don't, like, if you like Zack, you can like Zack. It's fine. I really don't mind. The sound bits that Dakoba was the chips and gravy quote from Kate Sith. Anything Kate Sith says in Advent Children, I can make as a soundbite. The 3 lines that he has are pretty funny. As Kate Sith. Yeah, I think that we should check for product placement in all the movies we watch on movie night, but yeah. Steffi Boner Brigade just ruined the Final Fantasy VII compilation. I would agree with that. You know what, right? I got Ever Crisis or whatever the mobile phone is, mobile game is on my phone. Loaded it up. Then my phone started to overheat. And I played like about 3 screens of it, and then I uninstalled it because I was like, my phone's gonna explode. This isn't really good, so I turned it off. But yeah. Don't ask me where my grapes came from. But yeah. Zack is a cool and good character, but he didn't need all the games and stuff about him. Prequels usually suck because it's the stuff you didn't need to enjoy it. Yeah, I don't like prequels, and I don't like over-explaining things. I think prequels are a narrative shortcut because it's using your affection for the original property, and it's not expanding on anything because you know the end point. Like, if it's a sequel and the sequel actually builds on the story that was already created in a meaningful way, I'm okay with a sequel. A prequel is a narrative shortcut because you already know how it's going to end. And I don't like that. I think is kind of my general rule with sequel prequels. So yeah, I think I'm with H-Bomber on that one. He says 3 things. I don't mind. I missed Scream 4. I watched like the first season of Better Call Saul and I never felt any compulsion to go back to it, which apparently is like a bad thing. Like I should have stuck with it, but I've never found the time to go back to it because I just didn't feel like the season that I watched of it, like which was the first season, was very good. But I know that Breaking Bad takes a while to get going, and then everybody was going mad about how Better Call Saul got really good. But I couldn't invest my time into it. Yeah. And I think a prequel and sequel works if you do it in the same universe and you pick up a different character and you tell a different story and you do it in a way that enriches what you already know but doesn't take away from what you already know. So it's like, and again, I've said this before already, but I'll just say it again because I don't think many of you are here, but there's a narrative shortcut when people do sequels, when people do long-running TV shows, when people do lots of movies, which is that they'll take the character that you know and they'll just reset them to a point where you already recognize them, and then they just make them go on the same emotional journey over and over again, and they just keep learning the same lessons over and over again without, and it's just a narrative shortcut where they just reset them when the character just gets amnesia and none of the development actually impacts it. So that's why Advent Children pisses me off, because Cloud is just reset to grieving mode, which wasn't where he was at the end of the original game. He was okay at the end of the game, and he was ready to move on, and he learned something. Yeah, so then it's like, oops, just reset him to grieving so we can just develop him again and make him go on that journey. I mean, yeah, I think a lot of TV shows are definitely guilty of it. I think video games are guilty of it. It's like you watch these characters learn these lessons and then they don't follow through on them and they don't grow, because if they grow and become genuinely like adjusted people, then you don't have any conflict in your story. But then again, it would go back to what Dakoba said, wherein if you did a sequel and you picked up different characters and built them up and had conflicts within their stories and actually did a meaningful story with them, if you had nothing to take with these other characters, or you could, I think, really genuinely knuckle down and actually write a decent story with these characters in their new headspace. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Or they just add like a long lost sibling or lover, or I'm thinking of Uncharted now. Because I don't think Nathan Drake ever learns from any shit either. But yeah, the Fantastic Beast films. I've learned everything I know about the Fantastic Beasts films trilogy. I've learned against my will, and they sound shit. So I have no interest in them. But yeah, they're just not good. Yeah, they reset people in soaps. They give them amnesia or make them fall down elevator shafts or some shit. I don't know how soap operas work anymore. What is Afterlife? I don't know what that one is, but I think that's what annoys me about Seven, because I think Seven's actually a really ripe world for expansion, and I think there's lots of elements of the Final Fantasy VII world that could be expanded on in a meaningful way. I think Hojo and Gast is really interesting. I know we were just saying Aki's a scientist, why would you make a movie about a scientist? But I think Hojo and Gast are a really interesting dynamic. I think stories that I'd like to know about. Something to do with the ancients, like way back when, like a story about them. Like Jenova, like I guess it's a prequel, but it's also like it's kind of like with characters that we don't recognize, and I guess then the game could end with Jenova's meteor landing or something like that. You could do, yeah, like a scientific game, like with science characters, yeah. Something to do with the Turks, even, like, just because the Turks, unlike Stark, are unambiguously evil, and that's interesting. Like the Shinra's got a whole. There's the Shinra playground. They haven't really used to any effect. They could do Red's colony. They could do something to do with Red's family. Hey Aqua. Somebody becomes part of the police squad. I think with Seven, every story that they've told in that world, to me, has been a disappointment. Oppenheimer didn't have him fight Godzilla. I did fall asleep at the end of that movie, so maybe I need to watch it again. But I do think, but again, and it comes back around to, they've just not put any effort into it. And I think with Nomura especially, it's the rule of cool. People want, and again, it's like, they want sword fights, they want motorcycle chases, they want exciting stuff, they want, they want flash bang. They don't care. They just want to see they want to see spectacle. And I think that's a shame, and I think that undermines Queen. Barrett. I just think it vastly underestimates the audience and what they expect from the games, and yeah. I think any movie that's 3 hours long could cut time out. Sorry, my hair, I cut my hair and it's kind of like, it's all gone. I don't know if you guys noticed, but like I cut it all off, so. I watched a movie today, actually, it was a French movie. It was 2.5 hours long. And I sat there at the end and I went, there's no reason why that movie should have been 2.5 hours long. And I went and had a dig, and I found on Wikipedia, of all places, that the original edit of the movie that the director had made was 4 hours long, and they had to fight him to get it down to under 3 hours. And I just sat thinking, that movie, like, it was 2.5 hours. And in my head, I was like, they could have cut an hour out of that. So I don't know what his 4 hour cut was about. Boring ass movie. Anyway. Zidane and Kuja having an epic sword fight. I mean, that's it. They'd never do that with 9. I'm relieved. But with 9, we know that they were going to make that little TV show about the VVs. And the VVs living on the plateau that looked like near Dali. And there was VV's little children, and they all had their own little personalities, and it all looked really cute. And I think that would have been a really good expansion on the 9 universe. And from the like artwork that we saw and whatever we saw of it, it looked really cute and like a really good way to expand on the Final Fantasy IX world without relying on using things that you already know. Like, it would have been really nice. Yeah, I mean, people, this is it. I mean, spectacle and excitement doesn't mean it's a good thing. I think, and again, I will argue this until I'm blue in the face. Spirits Within tried to swing for the fences. It tried to tell a story. It tried to do something in its own way. And it tried, and there was passion there, and there was effort, and just some of the judgment calls that they made just ultimately made it into something that people didn't connect with. But like, you can tell that there was passion there. I think Sakaguchi wouldn't have done it that way if he didn't genuinely believe that he was creating art. And that's my argument. And that's why I think Spirits Within is good. Because trying and failing to make art is better than making slop. Than just churning out what you think people want. Trying to create something meaningful with the tools that you have and telling a story and trying your best, even if it fails because you made some shit judgments, is better than just saying, here's this sequence of events that we don't really care about, but hey, look, everyone's swinging swords, and isn't that fun? I just, yeah, that's my opinion. And again, argue with me. But yeah. The genomes are made from refurbished and trapped cells, so if Vivi figured out how to make new ones without the mist coming out of the ether. He dispersed his own mist to his kids. Don't break my heart like that, Dakoba. It's a good idea, though. And maybe they could, like, maybe the ones that were buried in the graveyard had mist still in them and they could repurpose that. Maybe that's how they make more black mages. It's kind of cool. But yeah. So yeah, the Spirits Within was the most expensive movie ever made at the time. It was $135 million. Just the figures off the top of my head from what I remember, it's like 200 people worked on it for like 4 years. It was crazy. And it bankrupted the studio. And Sakaguchi had to step down. And it almost scuppered the Enix merger because they were like, can't afford that much of a loss. It caused such a catastrophic, 20k per frame. That's why they ain't emoting. That's why their faces don't move. That's just facts. But yeah. Anyway, I've made my emotions very clear on Spirits Within and Advent Children. I know, Aki's hair was the most expensive thing in that movie. Well, Toy Story was the first. It came out in 98, but it was a kid's film. And I think, again, it was associated with Final Fantasy. It was a full CGI movie. So at that point, the only full CGI movies that had been made were kids' movies. And it was associated with a video game, which is also for kids. So they marketed it as an adult CGI movie, and it didn't work because the kids were bored by it and the adults thought it was for kids. And again, that's another, people weren't ready for that shit at the time. I think art has value, and I think Spirits Within is art, in my opinion. I think Advent Children is bad, but again, you can argue with me. But, oh, it was 95. There you go. I mean, the human faces in Toy Story are terrifying. Have you seen Spike? I don't think, like, that's the thing between them. That's what it boils down to for me. Spirits Within for me is art. Advent Children is slop, and that's how I just, yeah. That's my opinion. I don't think there's much value in what they did with Advent Children, but yeah. Oh yeah, there was a Sid in Toy Story. There must be a Sid in all CGI movies. We're just not looking hard enough. It was the 90s. 95. 95 was Toy Story. 98 was Toy Story 2. Was I close? Anyway, I guess I'll just kind of start to try and wrap up my feelings and stuff because I feel like I've been repeating myself for a while now, but it's a live action animated musical anthology television film. Art? I'm gonna ask you guys because obviously this month we did Final Fantasy, which on Twitch is probably like the best kind of movie to watch because it's a video game movie. But I was wondering, like, I'm gonna put a poll up. I genuinely want to know what kind of movie you want to watch next. I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna ask you for a theme, or I'm gonna ask you for a collection. So it's gonna be like, because I don't know, because I think Sonic 1, 2, or 3. I think we'll do non-video game movie next month. My Cousin Vinny gets added to the list. I want to kind of, I want to watch a movie with you guys that's a bit more out of our comfort zone. Or am I? It's a good movie as My Cousin Vinny. I'm just gonna start a poll. I think I'm just gonna bite the bullet. What kind of? I'm gonna give you 10 minutes. So they're all gonna be from like my favorites list. What options am I gonna give you? I feel like we've already done sci-fi. This is where I should be more prepared. So I'm trying to like pick a theme. I want us to watch something out of our comfort zone. And I'm just trying to kind of pull together an idea of how I'm gonna frame it for you guys. We'll do no video game movies this next month. Oh yeah. Uh, uh, I'm just gonna do it here. I'm just gonna do like a snap poll. Okay. Week 1. I think they were sci-fi. Oh, I think week one. I think month one was just like a selection of movies that I picked from the list. Um. So yeah, September. We'll do horror in October if you guys want to. But I'm just curious. Like, I just want to kind of hone into where we're at. Like, do you want to watch a black and white movie with me? Okay. So we're gonna. It looks like we're gonna watch a movie with subtitles. Um, because I just want to kind of hone in on something different, something unique. Because I feel like we've done something really like familiar. Like we all know Final Fantasy. We're all familiar with it. I want to see if you guys want to watch something like out of your comfort zone. I want to see how you guys feel about watching something niche, something that I'm like that I can like recommend to you that you've never thought to watch before. I think that's my general vibe right now. Um, yeah, introduction period is over. We're having themes now. Um, I want to step it up a notch. We've done three movies that like everyone's heard of. I want to do a movie that no one's heard of. I'm trying to alienate everyone now. Yeah, I want to give you a new experience. I want to see if we can like expand a bit. So so far we've done the first movie was Fifth Element, um, which we had fun with. Um, and then the second one was Akira because I kind of gave the option for anime movies. The options were like Your Name, Paprika, or there was Wolfwalkers, I think. And they were all animated movies. Um, and then this month we did Final Fantasy movies because it was my birthday this month, and I was like, let's just lean into Final Fantasy because Final Fantasy is like one of my favorite things. And now because I am a self-proclaimed cinephile, I wanna kind of do something a bit more out there. I want to do something a bit more niche. So if you're not following me on Letterboxd, I really don't. You can just look at the page. I don't really. I've got quite a high. Like, I will stress that my Letterboxd says that I've watched 2,000 movies. I've only been logging the movies since I've had a Letterboxd, so it doesn't include any movie that I watched before 2017. So I have watched more than 2,000 movies. Um, that's just what I've been logging since I got the Letterboxd set up. So I'm kind of like, yeah. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think people do go with the thing that they've heard of. So I want to kind of like have a list. So what I'm gonna do is when I've yeah, and I think it's I think this will be a good one because what we do is we watch the movie on the Discord. So this week on Wednesday night, it's usually a couple of days before my this stream that I do. So what we do is we watch the movie on Discord. You're welcome to join us if you're on the Discord. We just watch it in the the voice channel, in the streaming channel. I'll stream the movie and we'll have our chat up. And you're welcome to just watch the movie in silence, or you can chat along with us. We don't have our mics on. We don't have microphones on. We don't have cams on. We just sit and watch the movie, and like just type and chat, and everybody reacts and makes funny jokes. So we just kind of do a little watch party. Nobody's obligated to join. I'm just gonna throw it up so that you can see the movie. And then I usually do the stream a couple of days after we've watched the movie. So it's like in the same week, we'll watch the movie on Discord and then we'll do the stream a couple of days later so that we can. I kind of like want people to go away and have a think about it and then come back with opinions and thoughts and like have reflected on it. So I normally do it a couple of days before and then we have these conversations. Because I find these conversations really fun, but I do think that like it's important to have like a moment to reflect on it and have a sleep on it, and especially with Akira, have some really fucked up dreams about it. Um, but yeah, And everyone's got to go, Deswell, Canada. Um, I've watched Daisies before. Yeah, Daisies is a good one for foreign language. If I can put that on the list. What's her name? What's the director? The director's name is like, um, oh, I watched a couple of her movies at one point. Vera Chituleva, the Czech lady. Chituleva, yeah, something like that. I'm saying it wrong. My Czech is bad. No, she's a Czech director. She directed movies in the 60s, and they were considered like they pushed the societal norms at the time for what women were expected to create. Daisies is kind of like one of her more, I'm gonna say, like avant-garde movies. I watched another movie that followed like the life of a ballet dancer in a studio. I can't remember what the other one was. But yeah, she was a rebel. Yeah, you could, yeah, peak friendship content. I was eating takeaway when I watched the movie this week on when we were watching the movie on the Discord. I'm not gonna do two movies in a row again unless there's unless there's a draw. Um, but we'll see. So far the foreign language movie is winning. Daisies, yeah. So I watched Daisies, and I gave it 5 stars. So that's the movie that Chituleva, yeah, that's her name. So this is the movie that Dakoba is referencing. I watched it. It's very weird. I'm not gonna lie. I watched her other movie. Which one was the other one that I watched? She's yeah. Agnes Varda is the other female director that I went through a phase of watching quite a lot of movies of. I'm trying to think, like, can we combine like old black and white movies with yeah. Wanted to like it. Yeah. It does mess with your head. There is one actually just off the top of my head now that I'm thinking on it that I'd love for you to watch. Oh gosh, what is it? Or we might combine themes here. Uh, it's gonna bug me. I'm gonna have to look it up. Let me just double check. Well, yeah, so even if, and I think that's the thing, even if you don't like the movie, and I'll say this for like what we watched before, like we watched what was it? We watched the Final Fantasy movies, and I think the general consensus was Spirits Within wasn't very good, and Advent Children wasn't as good as we thought it was going to be. So it's kind of like one of those situations where they weren't great movies, but they prompted a conversation. We've had a wonderful conversation. You thought all 4 films were bad so far. I'm gonna paste this one in actually. Hang on. That's one that I would try and make you watch. I think it really inspired Kubrick. If you want to do like fucked up like imagery and stuff. Yeah, I think he took inspiration from it for The Shining. So I might make you watch that one. I'll get a list together. That one's from the 60s, so yeah, foreign language movie has won. that gives me quite a lot of scope. But yeah, Last Year at the Marienbad is about a spooky chateau. And as I say, it inspired Kubrick when he did The Shining. So that's kind of like, that's a taster of what I might get you to watch. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put it in a poll on the Discord. So if you want to vote, you will get a chance when I've pulled a list together. When I've pulled the list together, I normally give a week for you to kind of submit your ballots. I give 4 options for the movies. And yeah, that's all I got right now. I know it's kind of offensive, but like, where's the list? Sorry. Yeah, I'll have a look at the list. I'll have to wind back and look at the list. If anybody has any recommendations, I'll probably do it over the weekend. And once I've made the list, I will do I'll with the 4 movies, I'll give you like, I'll just copy what's on Letterboxd, but I'll give you like a brief explanation of what each movie's about so that you know what to expect, and like, you know, when you're casting your ballot to like kind of know what you want. Suspiria is the OG Suspiria is actually pretty good. That's an Italian Gallo movie, which is kind of like an Italian slasher movie from the 60s. That's the best way I can describe it. 1 month I'm going to do all female director movies. Rolami. Yeah, that's not a foreign language movie. I don't think I'm going to get you to watch Tarantino. I think you guys would have to really bully me into watching a Tarantino movie. Amelie, yes. We could do Amelie. Amelie's one of the greatest movies ever made. Okay, so that's 2 French ones. So Amelie's also very well known. But yeah, I'll try and make a selection. Again, if there is a draw, I guess we'll watch both movies, or I'm not watching more than 2. But I'll pull a list together. Ocean Heaven on the list. Y Tu Mama Tambien. I actually heard about that one on the radio. Amelie, it's her on the poster, like smiling with the spoon. Yeah, it's kind of creepy eyes. Yeah, I get why you'd think that. Tarantino's for my birthday next year. I'm not a Tarantino stan. I'm a ABT, anything but Tarantino. Yeah, I'll pull a list together. Maybe I'll do more than 4. Maybe I'll do 5. Because foreign language movie is, well, it's quite a big ask, I think. But we'll nah, I don't think it's Sex Tapes a movie, no matter how much people try to tell me it is. We shall see. Japanese, no Kingsglaive. Kingsglaive's not making it back. Yeah. I think I'm gonna leave it there. I think we've got lots to think about. I really enjoyed our conversation. I think you're all so much fun to hang out with and chat with, and I really do enjoy having these conversations. And I really do think that I always get a bit nervous about movie night because I'm scared no one's going to turn up. But yeah, I do enjoy doing this with you and watching these movies with you and chatting about these movies. And as I say, we're all entitled to difference in opinions, and it's cool. And I love having these conversations because it means that we can, you know, we can have difference in opinions, and it's cool. It's fine. And I think the next list of movies, I'm curious to see how everyone reacts to it. Maybe we'll do like OG Godzilla. Maybe I'll put that on the list because I know it's on iPlayer. So, but yeah, thank you everyone for hanging out. I'll find a raid for us to go to. I don't really know who's on, but keep an eye on the Discord channel over the weekend. and I will put the poll up for the movie. Zach sucks. I'm gonna drop you off with Eleanor. I know that you guys, if you haven't played Claire Obscure, be prepared for spoilers, but she's really early on into the game. But she's just playing it for the first time. The scandal that Aerith isn't dead. She should just stay dead. I don't. Aerith's good for one thing, and that's dying. Stay dead. I'll drop you off with Aerith. And she's got face paint on. She looks really cool. Aerith meets Shovel. I mean, if she wasn't dead from getting stabbed through the abdomen, then she was dead when Cloud dropped her in the lake and weighed her down with rocks. She suffocated that day. I don't think she died of a stab wound. That's all my opinion is of Aerith's death. Anyway, yeah, it's not. She didn't die to motivate the male character. She just. Never mind. I hate fridging women. Stop it. Thank you so much for hanging out. It's always a pleasure. I do enjoy these streams, and let's watch another movie sometime. Thank you for partaking. Thank you for letting me ramble. Mostly, I feel like I've just talked non-stop at you. I really do have fun with these things. Fridge hug. Chaotic way to end the stream, but I think you guys are great. Stay awesome. Have a great weekend. Maybe I'll catch you on the next one. Bye! Yeah, it wasn't as much yelling. We did good. We were very civilized. Well done, guys. Good job. Stay awesome. Have fun.